Adoption was legalised in 1952, since when over 40,000 adoptions have taken place, affecting nearly every family in Ireland. These are some of their stories.
Right, okay. Should I take this one? Try that. Yeah. Careful. That open enough, yeah? Open it more. So, like open just more. There, yeah?
Daniel Ryan was adopted from Romania as a small boy and grew up happily in Naas, County Kildare. He had a very hard start in life, and even though he wasn't an orphan, he ended up spending years in an institution.
My birth parents were living in poverty. They were living in what turned out to be a ticket house, very small little room, which consisted of a bed, really, for everybody, and a little cooking stove. Literally, you couldn't really fit anything else in it.
Romanian President Nicolae Ceausescu banned contraception and ordered couples to have children so he could build an army for his country. Couples couldn't afford to feed and clothe their children and ended up putting them into the care of orphanages. When Ceausescu's reign ended in 1989, the horror of these institutions was revealed to the world. Many couples in Ireland responded by adopting children from Romania.
That Christmas, when I stood in midnight mass in Naas, I knew as I was breathing air that I would stand there next year with a Romanian child. There was not a doubt in my mind. And at that stage, Mike wasn't quite on board.
I wasn't in favour at all, because we'd had our family, as far as I was concerned. We had 3 beautiful daughters. We had decided a few years before that was it. And I thought that this was just a thing that Anne would get over after a period of time. And if I gave her 2 or 3 months, she'd be fine. It was St. Patrick's Day, actually, that I finally agreed that we should go and adopt a child in Romania.
Mike went because I think he was afraid I'd bring back the entire Romanian orphanage.
Daniel was the first child that I met, and I just fell instantly in love with him. Now, he was talking in Romanian and I was talking in English, but we seemed to have an instant bond. And it was quite amazing, really. And so much so, I was supposed to go and see 2 other children, and I just refused to go because I said, look, this is it.
Dan was 3 and had been in and out of orphanages for most of his short life. His parents were poor and they both had drink problems. They found it very hard to look after him and had decided to give him up for adoption. But his years in the orphanages had an effect on his behaviour, especially towards women.
He also preferred men to women. I think he was badly treated by women in the orphanage. That made it actually quite difficult for Anne in the beginning to bond with Daniel, because he gravitated towards me.
He cleaved and bonded to Mike instantly and disliked me on sight, spitting at 40 feet off through his teeth at me. You have no conception of the pain that shot through my heart, and I thought, he's never going to love me.
When Dan arrived in Ireland, Mike and Anne noticed odd habits he had developed in the institutions.
Every time somebody gave him a gift, he took it and kind of disappeared, and we didn't know what he was doing. And eventually we discovered that he was hiding them all in a corner in the utility room because he thought somebody was going to come and take them away from him again. He wasn't used to getting anything.
We were 18 teaspoons down after about a week and a half, and they were hidden as well. And he would stand guard on the things that he had hidden.
Where? She's moved to Blessington actually this week. Oh.
Good job. It doesn't look like it.
I bonded with my sisters really, really well from the start, which is surprising, I think, considering I was older and I might have had some attachment disorder at the time, at the start. My mum worked very hard to try and get that out of me and try and make me associate and build relationships.
I became intensely interested in the whole area of the effects of institutionalisation on children, on the whole area of sensory deficit, on how it affects your mathematical ability if you never crawl. I did everything I could think of to try and get that sensory stuff that he might have missed out on. I remember about 6 months on, he came into bed with me one morning, and this was the first time. And I remember saying to him, do you remember Romania, Dan? And he said, yes. And I said, well, what do you remember about Romania? And he said, and this is exactly, and it's stood in my head, or stuck in my head forever. Everything is dark in Romania and no one loves Daniel. That was the beginning, I suppose, of some kind of, you know, stealing bond between myself and Dan. But it took that long. There were moments when you knew that he was far away. And I remember one particular time when I looked out and he was out in the front garden on the grass, just sitting crying. And I knew there was no way I could make whatever was wrong better.
As Dan grew older, he started to think more and more about his birth parents and returning to Romania.
I don't really remember anything about them at all, to be honest. All I had was a picture, really, of them. And every now and again I'd be able to look at them if I wanted to reflect quietly without having to announce it to the world. And I didn't do it that much. It wasn't that I would, but just, it can happen that you just have moments. And I looked at them then. It was great to have them, really, as a comfort.
We knew he wanted to go back, and we were trying to get as much information together before he went back as possible. And we found out that, through our bit of homework, that his mum was dead.
I suppose that you'd be sad if you heard anybody died, but it's different when, I know I didn't know her, but I think there's probably a connection that you unexplained, but it was just sad, I suppose, that was.
I think he felt a little guilty that he hadn't gone before and actually met his mother, but that's just one of those things.
Dan and his parents decided it'd be easier for Dan if he travelled with someone who was less emotionally involved. His uncle Ron was the logical choice to make the trip with him.
We're really good friends, and I really respect him as a person, you know, and he has the life experience he had, and he was still within the family, so he was a trustworthy person as well.
I also thought, well, it'd be his mother or father, but of course it was either the two of them or one of me, and one of me was easier. I was the neutral one, so I was the privileged one to go. Yeah.
With the help of their Romanian translators, Dan's birth auntie was contacted. It was arranged that she'd bring his father to meet them. She also told them about the conditions he was living in now.
He was living in, like, what looked like a lean-to kind of roof off the side of an existing building near a church, with wind coming through and damp floors, and just a mattress that was probably disgusting. I'd say it was soaking, and all his possessions were 2 shoes and a hat and a t-shirt or something. It was really not something you would put an animal in, really. I mean, it was just appalling. Meeting my birth father for the first time was really a unique experience. He's dressed in a suit. He had cleaned him up, and because he used to have a big beard, he kind of looked a bit homeless, is what he was, kind of effectively. But he had all the signs of it at the time. But I was surprised at how well he looked, considering his lifestyle.
It was surreal in a way, watching Dan hugging a stranger. There's this very strong kid taking this very skinny man and giving him a hug. He almost broke him in two, you know.
The one thing that was unusual was my birth father. He kept looking at my hands for some reason. He couldn't get over the fact that he thought we had the exact same hands. I could see him pointing over, look at the hands over there, you know. And that wasn't an issue for me. It was just funny to see that that's what he thought was the strange thing about the whole thing, which was funny. But I mean, he was kind of tuning in and out as well. He was engaged sometimes and not in other times. He wasn't as reliable a source as I had hoped, but my birth auntie was better.
She furnished a lot of information about Dan's mother, about Dan's adoption, how it happened.
The next day, concerned for his father's welfare, Dan, with the help of a local priest, organised temporary accommodation for him, hoping to see him through Romania's harsh winter.
When we went to say goodbye, we all got in the car, and Dan went out to say goodbye to his father. I suppose that was really sad, because you didn't know whether Dan's father was going to be around in another week, in another month or whatever. And we all went silent in the car, and I think we drove for the next 5-10 miles before there was a word spoken, and probably that was the time when Dan turned around and said, "We're not done, we're going back."
There were many stories about whether or not Dan had siblings. They were told of a sister and brother, so Dan wanted to check the public records and see if anything could be found.
I was going to check on the books to see if they had any children underneath, and we've discovered only one name, which is my sister Carmen. It was the most exciting thing news I've probably ever found out. It's up there, you know.
She had been adopted into Italy, and you know, the search started from there. And I guess you know, we all left that place thrilled and delighted that, you know, he had said the right thing: go back and let's have another try.
It took Dan a while, but he eventually tracked his sister to Italy using the internet, and since then they've met several times.
I just knew that she was going to be like me, and she was going to be really nice. She knew she was adopted, but she just didn't know that I existed, and she really didn't want to find the answers. She was too afraid to, and I think she had that fear of seeing the worst.
When they first met, they were just hugging each other and, you know, touching each other's skin like this, and just, it was like...
It was like they could not believe their luck.
Yeah. It's
And
like
it
they
was
both
the
won the
touch.
lotto or something.
Ho premuto qui.
It's okay. Okay.
Così.
It's not a picture.
I always describe her as like an extension of me. I think anyone who was adopted will tell you that it's the genetic factor that's you can't write for, you can't account for. It's just it's something that lacks until you find it, and it was brilliant.
Susan Mulligan first thought about becoming a foster parent in 1993. She already had 3 young children, Niamh, Connor and Aoife, but it was her husband Ger she had to convince.
I felt like this is something I could do. I actually felt this is something I could be good at, because I'm good with kids. So that's what made me persuade my husband to do it. I think he thought we had our hands full, and money was tight, and but I persuaded him. And when Tamara came, he was the apple of her eye. He just fell in love with her, just as much as he had fallen in love with his own when they were born in the hospital. Very, very, very strange to have a new baby in the house. And it was like as if I was having a baby myself. The house was full. Every day there was someone coming to see this baby. You bond very easily, and you just learn to love them as much as you love your own. She fit in perfectly well, and the kids were mad about her. They were all doting on her. Connie used to do terrible things. She used to put her in the laundry basket. And she's that small, she used to fit in it. She used to carry around the house in the laundry basket.
Soon after Tamara arrived, Susan's husband Ger passed away after a short illness.
My mother died first, then my father died, then my sister died, and then my husband died. All within about 5 years. So there was a lot of gaps to be filled.
I have no memory of Ger at all. Sadly, I was only 1.5 when he died. So, but there's plenty of photos of him, so I know what he looks like.
Even with a loving foster mother watching over her, Tamara had a difficult time growing up.
Primary school wasn't the best time of my life. I think it kind of taught me to be nice to other people because I was treated in a way I didn't like and I wouldn't want to hurt anybody else. So I kind of took refuge in books, kind of transport me to a different world.
She didn't do that well in primary school because she was kind of vulnerable and tiny, but she loves secondary school and blossomed, especially after 4th year. She just seemed to come out of herself. Sometimes I wish she ever go back into herself.
Tamara's natural mother wasn't able to take care of her children full-time, but having Tamara fostered with Susan meant she could have regular access.
Lovely girl, absolutely lovely girl. When she gave me Tamara, she was here one day and she just had Tamara in her arms and she handed it to me and said, "Susan, I can't look after her. Will you mind her for me?" And then access after that kind of got less and less because I think she trusted me to look after her.
I knew that she handed me over first of all because she knew she couldn't look after me properly. So, like, I understand now, maybe when I was younger I didn't really, but I understand now that that was a huge sacrifice because to give up your own child is a huge thing. And I'm forever grateful for that.
Children need to see their families. It's a great need in children. And if it's done properly and it's done on a regular basis, it's just in the part of their life and they can just get used to it.
I saw a lot of her when I was younger, but as the years went on, I saw less of her. The last time I saw her, I was 14, and I remember we were in McDonald's and there was a little playground, and she went in there with my younger sister, and she kept saying, "Oh, this is the best thing ever, it's great." I was like, okay. I didn't feel as sad as I should when she died. But in a way I understood why, because I didn't really know her that well, and you know, she's kind of like a distant aunt you really only ever saw at Christmas kind of thing. But like, I did love her because she was my mum, you know. But unfortunately she died before I could tell her, and that's kind of something, you know. I felt kind of sad because I wasn't sad in that kind of way. But when we went to the funeral, they played You Raise Me Up, and now whenever I hear that song I just burst into tears. Like, oh.
After Tamara's mother died, Susan thought she needed a family of her own and got an idea of what she might do.
I've been talking to my own children, I'm just saying, she'd nobody left apart from her other sisters, and I felt she was vulnerable. I thought, well, everyone needs to belong to somebody, and she belongs to nobody. She has grown up with me, and I've been through the ups and the downs and the chicken pox and the car sickness, and so it was more for her than me because I you know, was always felt she was mine anyway.
My mum just casually came up to me one day and said, I was thinking about adopting you. I said, okay. It's just a change of name. It doesn't really change anything.
What's the bank?
We're all going to dress up as Harry Potter characters.
And what are you going to put on the
Even though Susan had been looking after Tamara for 18 years, she still had to go through the process of assessment, apply for the adoption and then go to the High Court to have it passed.
The 2nd of August we went through when she was 18 on the 15th. And her birthday is actually the same day as my husband. That's about the same day. And everyone said, did you celebrate? We went for coffee, me and her on our own. And then we came home and it was just every day. The only thing I kind of kept saying, did she really care? It doesn't. But she was very anxious to get our new passport and our new name. Because naturally her passport was in her birth cert name. And she was dying to get her passport.
I think the biggest change is that I no longer have to kind of think when I'm signing something because I'm Tamara Mulligan now. Whereas I had to remember, that's not my last name, that's my foster last name. Kind of thing. I just sign it and it's grand.
Since 1994, Susan has fostered 44 children from as short a stay as one night to 18 years. She's seen the effect of family breakup from all sides.
There is so many families out there who want children and are too scared to foster because they're afraid they're going to have to give them back. Where if they had an open adoption here, children would feel wanted. And the new family would be secure to know that they couldn't just be taken off them. Everyone would be happy and the child would have a sense of identity. Because it's hard for a child. Some children are put into foster care and they don't see their families for years and years. So they've no bond there. That's why I think open adoption would be lovely.
Open adoption means the adoptive parents are the legal and permanent parents of the child. The natural parents are allowed access to the child, but only by full agreement with the adoptive parents. This access can be anything from letters on the progress of the child to visits to the home.
I was never really afraid of moving to another family or back to my mum because I felt so secure within the family that, they wouldn't let me go without putting up a fight. But I do remember I had a dream where my mum came back for me and to other people this might seem kind of terrible, but I was quite upset because I was being moved away from my friends and the people I knew to some other place. Other than that, I didn't really have a fear because there was no reason to fear,
The only thing that really obsessed me and people make me sound like cold-hearted to say, I couldn't do what you do because I couldn't give them back. But my attitude is, if no one does it, who's going to look after them? About 44 I would have done respite for just for short periods of time. A lot of children, a lot of dirty nappies.
Yeah, I felt very loved, almost, spoiled, I'd say, when I was growing up, and even now I feel very loved.